Mom, my father-in-law hit me. Those words my daughter Emily told me over the phone cut through me like a knife. I was at work, reviewing some company documents, when her name flashed on my screen. It was noon. Emily never called me at that hour. My daughter, what happened? Silence. Then her broken voice. Mom, my father-in-law hit me because the food was too salty. My husband saw everything and didn't say a word. My blood ran cold. Where are you? At their house, Mom. I'm locked in the bathroom. I'm scared. I hung up. My hands were shaking. My name is Sarah Collins. I'm 55 years old. I've worked my whole life as an accountant at a paper supply company here in Chicago. I raised Emily alone after I separated from her father when she was 12. He was a cop, a good man, but life took us down different paths. Emily was always quiet, obedient, loving. When she met Ethan 3 years ago, I wanted to believe she had found a good man. He came from a traditional family from Texas. His father was hard, stern, one of those men who never smiles. But Ethan seemed different. I was wrong. 20 minutes after that call, I was in my car, driving like a maniac toward their house, but I wasn't alone. I called Robert, Emily's dad. I told him everything in 30 seconds. Don't say another word, Sarah. I'm on my way. We met 2 blocks from the house. Robert was wearing his uniform. I was carrying something else. When we arrived at their front door, my heart was beating so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. I rang the bell. Heavy footsteps. The door opened. It was him, Emily's father-in-law, Ethan's father, a big man with thick arms and a cold gaze that pierced right through me. "What do you want?" he said with contempt. I didn't say anything. I just raised what I was holding in my hand. And when he saw what it was, his face changed. Everything changed. Before I tell you what happened that day in front of that door, you need to understand how we got there, because Emily wasn't always that frightened woman, locked in a bathroom, scared of her own father-in-law. There was a time when my daughter was free. I remember when Emily was 23. She had just finished her degree as a preschool teacher. Every Sunday she would come to my house for dinner. I'd make pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans from scratch. She'd arrive with her hands full of drawings her students had made for her. "Look, Mom, this little boy drew me with wings. He says I'm an angel." She would laugh. She had a clean, sincere laugh. She'd sit at the kitchen table, drink coffee with cinnamon and cream, and tell me her plans. She wanted to open her own little school someday. She wanted to travel. She wanted to be happy. I would watch her there, with the afternoon sun coming through the window, illuminating her face, and I'd think, I did it. I raised her on my own, but I did it. Emily never gave me any trouble, never partied late, never lied to me, never disrespected me. She was a good daughter, too good maybe. When her dad and I separated, she was 12. It was hard. Robert worked a lot. He was almost never home. I felt lonely. He felt misunderstood. There were no shouts, no blows, no other woman or other man. There was just silence. One day he left. I stayed with Emily. But Robert never stopped being her father. He would pick her up on Saturdays, take her to the park, to the movies, to get pizza at a place they both loved. Emily adored him, and he adored her. Over the years, Robert and I learned to be friends. We weren't a couple anymore, but we were parents, and that bond never breaks. Emily grew up seeing that, a separation with dignity, without hate, without revenge. Maybe that's why, when she met Ethan, she believed all men were like her dad, good deep down, capable of change. She was wrong. Ethan appeared in her life 3 years ago. Emily was working at a kindergarten in Lincoln Park. He was an accountant at a construction company. They met at a mutual friend's birthday party. The first time Emily told me about him, I noticed something in her voice, something different. "Mom, I met someone." "Oh, really? And what's he like?" "He's serious, hardworking. He says he wants to start a family. I liked that. These days, finding a man who talks about family is rare. When I met him, Ethan seemed polite. He came to my house with flowers, shook my hand, called me Mrs. Collins with respect. He was tall, thin, with fair skin, brown eyes, and a shy smile. We talked for hours. He told me he was from Houston, that his family was traditional, that his dad had been in the military and now owned an auto parts business. He told me he admired hardworking women like me, that raising a daughter alone was something he deeply respected. I wanted to believe him, but there was something that made me uncomfortable that day. Something small, almost invisible. When Emily went to the kitchen to get more coffee, Ethan looked at me and said, "Mrs. Collins, I come from a family where the man is the one who provides and the woman is the one who takes care of the home, but I understand that Emily works. That's fine for now. For now." Those 2 words stuck with me, but Emily was in love, and I wanted to see her happy. They got married a year later. It was a simple wedding in a garden on the south side of the city. Emily wore a simple but beautiful white lace dress. Robert walked her down the aisle. I cried. Ethan promised to love her, to care for her, to respect her. I believed him. The first few months were good. Emily came to my house often. She told me Ethan was attentive, that they cooked together, that they went for walks on Sundays. She seemed happy, but little by little, the visits became less frequent. "Mom, it's just that Ethan wants us to spend more time with his family." "Oh, of course, honey, that's fine." Then she stopped coming on Sundays. "Mom, my father-in-law invites us over for dinner every Sunday. He says it's a family tradition." "I understand, honey, but you miss me, right?" She would laugh, but it wasn't the same laugh anymore. And then one day, I noticed something in her face, a shadow, a weariness that didn't come from work. "Emily, are you okay?" "Yes, Mom. I'm just tired." But her eyes said something else. I wanted to ask more, I wanted to insist, but I didn't. And that was my first mistake. Because when a mother feels that something isn't right with her daughter, she must act, she must ask, she must break the silence. I didn't. And that omission, that silence of mine, almost cost Emily everything. Now, standing in front of that door, with Robert by my side and that object in my hand, I understood something. Sometimes a mother's love isn't just about being there. You have to be present. You have to act. And that day, I was going to act. The first time something was really wrong was 6 months after the wedding. I didn't see it at the time. Nobody saw it. But now, looking back, I understand that's where it all began. It was a Saturday afternoon. Emily showed up at my house, unannounced. That was already strange. Ever since she got married, she always called before coming over. "It's because Ethan wants to know where I am," she'd tell me. I thought it was affection, attentiveness. It wasn't affection. That Saturday, Emily knocked on the door with trembling hands. Her eyes were red as if she'd been crying. But when I asked if she was okay, she smiled. "Yes, Mom. I just came to see you." I hugged her. She smelled of lavender soap, of a clean house, of that mix of bleach and fabric softener she always used. But she also smelled of fear. I don't know how to explain it. Mothers can smell fear on their children. We sat in the living room. I served her some sweet iced tea. She held the glass with both hands as if she needed to cling to something. "How's Ethan?" I asked. "Good. Working a lot." "And your father-in-law?" She was quiet for just a second, but that second was enough. "He's fine too. He's demanding. But that's just how he is. Demanding." That word should have alerted me, but I didn't want to see. Emily stayed with me all afternoon. We watched an old movie, one of those we used to watch together when she was a little girl. We ate popcorn with hot sauce. We laughed. For a moment, I felt like everything was okay. But when she left, before getting into her car, she turned around and said to me, "Mom, If I ever need to stay with you for a few days, could I? My heart stopped. Of course, honey. This is always your home. Why do you ask? For no reason, I just wanted to know. She left. I stood there at the door, watching her drive away with a knot in my stomach that didn't go away all night. I should have called Robert. I should have gone to her house the next day. I should have asked her what was going on. I didn't, because Emily had told me everything was fine, and I wanted to believe her. The weeks passed. Emily stopped coming. She didn't even call on Sundays anymore. I tried to reach her, but she always had an excuse. Mom, sorry, my father-in-law invited us to dinner. Mom, I can't. I have to clean the house. Mom, Ethan wants us to go visit his aunt. Always someone else, always another priority. And I, like a fool, thought, well, it's normal. She's a newlywed. She's building her life. But one afternoon, while I was at the supermarket, I saw Emily. She was in the produce aisle, picking out tomatoes. She was wearing a long-sleeved sweater even though it was hot. Her hair was pulled back in a low ponytail. She looked thinner. Emily. I called out excitedly. She turned around. Her face lit up for a second, but then I saw something in her eyes, something like panic. Mom, what a surprise! I walked over and hugged her. She stiffened. How are you, honey? It's been weeks since I've heard from you. I'm sorry, Mom. I've been busy. Busy with what? You don't even call me anymore. You know, the house, work, Ethan. I looked at her closely. She had deep, dark circles under her eyes. Her skin was pale. And when she moved to grab some onions, her sweater rode up a little. I saw a bruise on her wrist. Emily, what's that? She quickly pulled her sleeve down. Nothing, Mom. I hit it on the car door. On the car door? Yeah, you know how clumsy I am. She smiled, but that smile didn't reach her eyes. I wanted to press her. I wanted to grab her arm, take her to my house, sit her down at the kitchen table and say, "Tell me the truth. What's happening to you?" But just then, her phone rang. She pulled it from her pocket. I saw the name on the screen. Ethan. Her face changed. Suddenly, all the light went out. Sorry, Mom. I have to take this. She walked a few steps away. I stood there, pretending to check the avocados, but listening. Yes, I'm on my way. No, I'm not late. I'm buying what you asked for. Yes, your dad's already there. I know. I'm coming, Ethan. I'm coming. She hung up. She came back to where I was. She wasn't smiling anymore. Mom, I have to go. Ethan's waiting for me. So soon? We haven't even had a chance to talk. I know. I'm sorry. My father-in-law got here early and I have to make dinner. Your father-in-law lives with you? No, Mom. But he eats with us almost every day. You know, Ethan is his only son, and since his wife died, well, he's all alone. Something in my chest tightened. And you're okay with that? Of course, Mom. It's normal. He's his dad. It wasn't normal, but I didn't say anything. Emily gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, grabbed her cart and left, almost running. I stood there in the middle of the supermarket with empty hands and a heavy heart. That night, I couldn't sleep. I called Robert. Robert, we need to talk about Emily. What happened? I don't know, but something isn't right. Did she tell you something? No, but I saw her today. She has a bruise on her wrist and she's very thin and nervous. And you think Ethan is hitting her? I don't know. She says no. But Sarah, if you suspect something, we have to do something. I know, but I can't accuse him without proof. What if I'm wrong? What if Emily gets angry with me? Robert sighed. Okay, but I'm going to talk to her. Alone. Thanks, Robert. I hung up. But Robert couldn't talk to her because every time he tried to see her, Emily had an excuse. She was busy. She was tired. Ethan couldn't make it that day. Her father-in-law needed something. Always something. And from a distance, I watched as my daughter faded away, little by little, like a candle someone is blowing on, softly, constantly, until there's no light left. 3 more months passed. Emily turned 26. I made her a birthday dinner at my house. I invited Robert, I invited her friends, I invited Ethan. Ethan arrived late. He was serious. He sat at the table without smiling, without talking to anyone. Emily was by his side, quiet, tense, as if waiting for an explosion. I tried to make the evening pleasant. I made her favorite food, lasagna with garlic bread and a big salad. I put on music, brought out the cake, but the tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. When we sang Happy Birthday, Emily tried to smile, but her eyes were full of tears. After dinner, Ethan stood up. "We're leaving. My dad is waiting for us." "Your dad?" I asked. "But it's Emily's birthday." "I know, but he wants to see her too. She's his daughter-in-law." Emily stood up without a word. She gave me a quick hug. "Thanks, Mom. It was beautiful." "Honey, why don't you stay a little longer? Your friends just got here." "I can't, Mom." "Ethan's right. His dad is waiting for us." They left. I stood there watching the door close, with the half-eaten cake and the candles still lit. Robert came over to me. "Sarah, that man is not okay, I know. And Emily isn't either. I know. We have to do something." "But what, Robert? What do we do if she won't let us help her?" He didn't have an answer. Nobody did. And in the meantime, my daughter was getting lost. And I, her mother, didn't know how to save her until that day. That day she called me with a broken voice, telling me, "Mom, my father-in-law hit me," and I understood there was no more time for doubts. The time to act had come. After that birthday, something changed in me. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I couldn't keep waiting for Emily to tell me the truth, because the words of a suffering daughter don't always come. Sometimes, silence screams louder. I decided to visit her without calling first. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I left work early, made up an excuse with my boss, and drove to the house where Emily lived with Ethan. It was a small house in a quiet neighborhood on the north side of the city. Nothing fancy, but nice. It had a small front garden with purple hydrangeas. When I arrived, Ethan's car wasn't there. That gave me courage. I knocked on the door. I waited. No one opened. I knocked again. "Emily, it's me. Mom." I heard slow footsteps, as if someone was hesitating whether to open or not. The door opened just a crack. Emily peeked out. Her hair was down, disheveled. She was wearing an old t-shirt and sweatpants. She looked tired, so tired. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "I came to see you. Can I come in?" She looked back into the house as if looking for something or someone. "Ethan's not here," I said. "I saw his car wasn't here." She took a deep breath. She opened the door a little more. "Come in." I entered. The house smelled of bleach, of clean. Too clean. As if someone had been scrubbing for hours. The living room was impeccable, the cushions on the sofa perfectly arranged, the coffee table without a speck of dust, everything in its place, everything perfect. Too perfect. "Want some coffee?" Emily asked. "Yes, honey. Thanks." We went to the kitchen, and there I saw something that broke my heart. On the wall, next to the stove, there was a list. A list handwritten in a man's script. It said, "House rules. Dinner must be ready at 7 o'clock sharp. The house must be clean before I get home. No visitors without notice. Do not go out without permission. Respect my father as if he were your own." I froze. "Emily, what is this?" She kept making coffee without looking at me. "They're Ethan's rules. Ethan's rules." "Yes. He says a house runs better when there's order. And you agree with this?" She remained silent, poured coffee into 2 mugs, handed one to me, and sat across from me at the kitchen table. "Mom, I know you don't understand, but this is how his family works. His dad raised Ethan this way, and Ethan wants our house to be the same. And you? What do you want? She looked down. I want my marriage to work. But is this a marriage, Emily, or is it a prison? She looked up. Her eyes were filled with tears. Don't say that, Mom. Honey, those rules, that's not normal. That's not love. That's control. It's not control, it's discipline. Ethan says women today don't know how to be wives anymore, that they don't know how to take care of a home, that his mom was different, that she knew her place. Her place. Emily, listen to yourself. Since when do you talk like that? Since I understood that if I want this to work, I have to adapt. Adapt or erase yourself. She stood up. She was trembling. Mom, I appreciate you coming, but I don't need you to tell me how to live my life. I chose to marry Ethan. I chose this. You chose this. Or were you convinced that this is what's right? Enough, Mom. Her shout left me breathless. Emily had never shouted at me, ever. She covered her mouth with her hands, as if she couldn't believe what she had just done. The tears started to fall. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I got up. I hugged her. She collapsed in my arms. She cried like I hadn't seen her cry since she was a little girl. I'm so tired, Mom. So tired. I know, honey, I know. Ethan wasn't like this before, I swear. When we met, he was different. He was sweet. He was attentive. But after we got married, he changed. Or maybe I never really knew him. Has he hit you? She pulled away from me, wiped her tears. No, not him. He's never laid a hand on me. Then who? Silence. Emily. Who? She closed her eyes. His dad. The world stood still. What? His dad. He yells at me. He tells me I'm useless, that I can't cook, that I can't clean, that I'm not good enough to be his son's wife. And sometimes he pushes me or grabs my arm or throws things at me. And Ethan? Ethan does nothing. He says his dad is right, that I have to learn, that his mom put up with more. I could barely breathe. Emily, that's violence. No, Mom, it's not violence. It's just that his dad is from a different generation. He's one of those tough men, you know how they are. No, honey, that's not being from a different generation. That's being abusive. And your husband is an accomplice. Don't say that. Why are you defending him? Because he's my husband. And so what? Does that give him the right to let you suffer? She fell silent. She stared at the floor. Her hands were shaking. I knelt in front of her. I took her hands in mine. Emily, listen to me carefully. You don't deserve this. You deserve a man who defends you, who protects you, who truly loves you. And if Ethan can't do that, then he's not the man for you. But Mom, I love him. I know, honey, but love isn't enough. Love without respect isn't love. It's dependency. And dependency kills. She looked at me with those eyes full of pain, and for a moment I thought she was going to react. I thought she was going to say, "You're right, Mom. Get me out of here." But she didn't. Instead, she wiped her tears, stood up, and said, "Mom, I appreciate you worrying about me, but I'm fine, really. I'm just going through a tough phase. All marriages go through this." No, Emily, not all of them. Yes, Mom. You and Dad had problems too. But your father never let anyone disrespect me, and I never let him control me. Well, maybe that's why you separated. Those words hurt me more than I expected. Emily noticed. Her face changed. I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't mean that. I'm just confused. I'm tired. But I promise you I'm okay. Yes, I promise. I didn't believe her, but I couldn't force her to leave. I couldn't drag her out of that house because Emily wasn't a child anymore. She was an adult woman, and the decisions were hers, even if those decisions were killing her inside. I said goodbye to her. I hugged her tight. I told her that if she ever needed help, she just had to call me, anytime, day or night. She nodded. She said yes, she would. But I knew she wouldn't, because Emily was already trapped, and the worst part was, she didn't see it. Or maybe she did see it. But she had decided to stay quiet, to submit, to endure. Like so many women. Like her grandmother. Like her great-grandmother. Like generations of women who learned that silent suffering was a virtue. But I wasn't going to let my daughter follow that path. I left that house with a shattered heart, but also with something else. A certainty. If Emily couldn't save herself, then I would do it for her. I called Robert that same night. I need you to be on alert. If Emily calls me, if she tells me something happened, I need you to be ready to act. What do you think is going to happen? I don't know, but something is going to happen. And when it does, I won't hesitate. I'm going for her and I'm getting her out of there. And if Ethan resists, then we'll deal with Ethan. And his dad. There was a silence. If his dad gets involved, Robert, you're going to have to do your job. Understood? I hung up and waited. I waited for weeks, for months, with a knot in my stomach, with fear gnawing at me from the inside, wondering if I was overreacting, if I was being an overprotective mother, if Emily was really in danger, or if I was just imagining things. Until one day, while I was at work, my phone rang and I heard my daughter's voice, broken, terrified, telling me, "Mom, my father-in-law hit me," and everything exploded. Sometimes we trust the wrong people too much. Have you ever been let down by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read them. The months that followed that visit were the hardest of my life. I kept working. I kept living my routine. But a part of me was always on alert, always waiting, like an animal that senses the storm before the first drop of rain falls. Emily would call me from time to time, always brief conversations, always with that controlled, measured voice, as if someone was listening on the other side. "Hi, Mom. How are you?" "Good, honey. And you?" "Good, too. Just calling to say hi." "Are you sure? Is everything okay?" "Yes, Mom. Everything's fine. I have to go. I love you." And she would hang up. I would stand there with the phone in my hand, feeling that something was wrong, but unable to do anything. Robert told me to be patient, that Emily had to realize it on her own, that if we pushed her, she would pull away even more. Maybe he was right, but patience hurts. It hurts like a slow knife twisting in your chest every day. One afternoon, while I was at the market buying groceries for the week, I saw someone I knew. It was Linda, a neighbor from the neighborhood where Emily lived. I knew her because once when I went to visit my daughter, she was watering her garden and we said hello. "Mrs. Collins, right?" she said. "Yes, Linda. Good to see you. How's Emily?" The question took me by surprise. "She's fine." "Why?" Linda lowered her voice, looked around as if she didn't want anyone else to hear. "It's just, I don't want to meddle, but I've noticed things." My heart started beating faster. "What kind of things?" "Well, sometimes I hear shouting from Emily's house, a man's voice, very loud. And one time I saw Emily's father-in-law leave the house slamming the door. He looked furious. And then I saw Emily at the window. She was crying." I closed my eyes, took a deep breath. "When was that?" "About a month ago. I wanted to go knock on the door, but my husband told me not to get involved, that it was a family matter." "And have you seen Emily lately?" "Yes, but she barely goes out anymore. I used to see her going for walks or going to work. Now I hardly see her. And when I do, she's always in a hurry, as if she doesn't want anyone to talk to her." "And Ethan?" "He leaves early and comes back late. But his dad, that man, he goes there almost every day. Sometimes he stays until late at night. And Emily is alone with him?" "Yes. Well, until Ethan gets there." My hands were shaking. Linda, if you hear shouting again, can you call me? I gave her my phone number. Please, she's my daughter. She nodded. Of course, ma'am. I have a daughter too. I understand. We said goodbye. I left the market without buying anything. I got in the car and cried. I cried with rage, with helplessness, with fear, because now it wasn't just suspicions. Now there were witnesses, there were screams, there were tears. And I, her mother, couldn't do anything. Or maybe I could. Maybe I could do something I had been avoiding. I called Robert. I need you to run a background check on Emily's father-in-law, Ethan's dad. I want to know who he is, what he's done, if he has a record. You think he has a record? I don't know. But a man who treats a woman like that, who yells at her, who pushes her, that man didn't learn that overnight. Someone taught him, or he's always been this way. Okay, let me see what I can find. What's his name? Richard. Richard Miller. He was in the military, now has an auto parts business up north. Perfect. I'll call you in a few days. Robert was a cop. He had contacts. He knew how to find information. 3 days later, he called me. Sarah, I found something. What? Richard Miller has a history. 15 years ago, his wife, Ethan's mother, filed a domestic violence report. My blood ran cold. What? Yes, but she withdrew it a few days later. According to the report, she said it was a misunderstanding, that they were going through marital problems, that everything was resolved. And after that, nothing. There were no more reports. But according to some neighbors from that time, the shouting was heard often, and she, the wife, stopped leaving the house. She became very quiet, very submissive. And how did she die? Officially, cancer, 8 years ago. But some say the cancer wasn't the only thing that killed her, that she was very thin, very weak, as if she had stopped eating, as if she had given up. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Robert, that man, killed his wife. Not with a blow, but he killed her. He snuffed her out little by little. I know. And now he's doing the same thing to Emily. And Ethan? Ethan grew up watching that, watching his father yell, watching his mother submit. He learned that's how a marriage works, that the man commands and the woman obeys. And now he's repeating the pattern. I have to get Emily out of there. But she doesn't want to leave. Then I'm going to make her want to. How? I don't know, but I'm going to do something. I hung up. That night I couldn't sleep. I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Emily, thinking about that house, thinking about that man, Richard, going in every day, yelling, pushing, slowly destroying my daughter's soul. And thinking about Ethan, the man I thought was good, the man who promised to love Emily, and who now, like a coward, let his father treat her like trash. I decided to do something risky. The next day, I left work early. I drove to Emily's house. I knew Ethan wouldn't be there. I knew it would just be Emily and Richard, and that's exactly what I wanted. I arrived at 3 p.m. I rang the bell. No one answered. I rang again, waited. Finally, the door opened. It was Richard. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a hard face and a cold stare. "What do you want?" he said to me, with that tone men use who believe women don't deserve respect. "I've come to see my daughter. She's not here." "Yes, she is. Her car is right there." I pointed to Emily's car parked in front of the house. Richard clenched his jaw. "I said she's not here, and I'm saying I want to see her." We stared at each other. It was a silent duel, a battle of wills. I wasn't going to back down. After a few seconds, he stepped aside. "Come in. But don't take long. I have things to do." I entered. The house was dark, the curtains drawn, the air heavy. "Emily," I called out. No response. "Emily's in the kitchen. Richard said, crossing his arms. I went to the kitchen and there was my daughter with her back to me, standing at the stove, cooking. Emily. She turned around, and what I saw destroyed me. Her face was swollen, her eyes red, and on her left cheek, a fresh red mark. "Mom," she whispered. Richard appeared behind me. "Your daughter is very clumsy. She hit her head on the cabinet." I looked at him with hatred. "She hit her head on the cabinet, or did you hit her?" His face didn't change. He showed no surprise, no guilt, only contempt. "Ma'am, I suggest you leave. You have no business here. I have every business here. She's my daughter, and she's my son's wife. And as long as she lives in this house, I have the right to correct her when she makes a mistake." Correct her? Is that what you call it? Hitting a woman is correcting her? If she can't cook, she has to learn. My wife learned, and Emily will learn too. Emily started to cry. "Mr. Miller, please, stop. Shut up," he yelled at her, and I exploded. I walked up to him. Small, yes, but furious. "Don't you ever yell at her again. Don't you ever lay a hand on her again, because if you do, I will make you regret it." He laughed, a cold, mocking laugh. "What are you going to do? A single woman? A divorcee?" I may be divorced, but I'm not alone. And if you touch one hair on my daughter's head, you'll find out what hell is really like. Are you threatening me? No, I'm warning you. We stared at each other. This time, he was the first to look away. "Leave before I call the police. Call them. Emily's father is a cop. I'd be delighted for him to come." That threw him off. Just for a second, but it was enough. "Emily, let's go," I said. "You can't take her," Richard said. "She's an adult. She can leave whenever she wants." "Right, Emily?" Emily looked at me. There was so much fear in her eyes, so much pain, so much confusion. "Mom, I can't. Ethan will be angry. Let him be angry. You can't stay here. But he's my husband, and you're my daughter. And I'm not going to let anyone hurt you. Not his father, not him, not anyone." Emily cried harder. "Mom, I don't know what to do. I do. Trust me." Richard took a step toward us. "If you take her, Ethan will come looking for her, and it won't be pretty. Let him come. I'll be waiting." I took Emily's hand. She trembled, but she didn't let go. "Let's go. Honey, we left that house." Richard didn't stop us, but his look was one of pure hatred. I got Emily into my car. She was crying nonstop. "Mom, what am I going to do? Ethan's going to kill me." "No, Emily, no one is going to kill you. I promise." I drove back to my house. Emily didn't stop crying the whole way. When we arrived, I sat her down in the living room, made her some chamomile tea, and hugged her. "Everything is going to be okay, honey. I promise." But deep down, I knew this was just the beginning. Because men like Richard don't let their victims go that easily. And men like Ethan, raised in violence, don't either. That night, I called Robert. "I need you to come over. Emily's with me, and I think Ethan is going to come. I'm on my way." And we waited. As I tell you all this, I wonder where you might be listening. Write the name of your city in the comments. Emily spent the whole night at my house. She didn't talk much, just cried. She hugged herself. She trembled every time she heard a noise from the street. I sat next to her on the living room sofa and didn't move. I hugged her. I stroked her hair like when she was a little girl and had nightmares. "It's over, honey. It's over." But it wasn't over. It was just beginning. Robert arrived at 9 p.m. He was still in his uniform. When he saw Emily, his face changed. His eyes filled with tears. "What did they do to you, my girl?" Emily got up and ran to hug him. She cried on his chest like I hadn't seen her cry in years. "Dad, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for not telling you sooner. You have nothing to be sorry for, Emily. None of this is your fault." Robert looked at me over Emily's head. His eyes said the same thing as mine. This couldn't go on. The three of us sat in the living room. I made coffee. Emily drank it slowly, her hands trembling. Emily, Robert said in a soft voice, I need you to tell me everything from the beginning, without fear, without shame. Everything. Emily looked down. I don't know where to start. Start at the beginning. When did all this begin? She took a deep breath. I think it started even before we were married, but I didn't realize it. What do you mean? When Ethan and I were dating, he was very attentive, but also very jealous. If I went out with my friends, he'd call me every half hour. If I didn't answer right away, he'd get angry. He'd say I didn't love him, that if I really loved him, I would always be available for him. Robert and I looked at each other. I thought it was because he loved me so much, Emily continued, that jealousy was a sign of love. But now I understand it wasn't. It was a sign of control. And his dad? I asked. When did you meet his dad? I met him a month after I started dating Ethan. We went to Houston. Richard, Ethan's dad, welcomed me into his home, but he wasn't kind. He looked me up and down, as if he were sizing me up. And then he said to Ethan right in front of me, She's pretty, but I hope she knows how to cook, because a woman who can't cook is no good as a wife. I was stunned. And what did Ethan say? He laughed. He said, Don't worry, Dad. If she doesn't know, you can teach her. Emily sighed. I felt uncomfortable, but I thought it was just his way, that he was from a different generation, that in time he would accept me. And did he accept you? Robert asked. No, he never accepted me. From the day of the wedding, he started criticizing me. He said my dress was too simple, that the food at the reception wasn't good, that I had invited too many people from my side and not enough from his. Everything I did was wrong. And did Ethan defend you? Emily shook her head. No, he would just say, My dad's right. You need to do better. I felt anger rising in my chest. After the wedding, Emily continued, Richard started coming to our house every day. At first, he just came for dinner. Ethan said his dad was lonely, that since his mom died, he had no one, that it was our duty to take care of him. Take care of him, I said, or let him control you. I didn't see it that way, Mom. I thought I was being a good daughter-in-law, a good wife, but nothing I did was ever enough. If I cooked chicken, he said he wanted steak. If I cooked steak, he said it was tough. If the house was clean, he'd find dust somewhere. If I smiled, he said I was a fool. If I was serious, he said I was a sourpuss. The tears started falling again. And Ethan always took his side. Always. He said his dad was just trying to help me, that if I listened to his advice, I'd be a better wife. And when did the hitting start? Robert asked, his voice tense. Emily closed her eyes. 6 months ago. I was cooking. I made vegetable soup. Richard arrived, tasted the soup, and said it was horrible, that it looked like dirty water. I told him I was sorry, that I would make it again. But he stood up, grabbed the bowl, and threw it against the wall. Shards of glass scattered all over the floor, and then he grabbed my arm and pulled me toward him. My heart was beating so hard it hurt. He said, You're useless. My wife cooked 1,000 times better than you. I don't know what my son saw in such a mediocre woman. I started to cry. I told him I was sorry, that I would do better, but he squeezed my arm so hard it left bruises. And then he pushed me. I fell, hit my hip on the table. Robert stood up, furious. And where was Ethan? In the living room, watching TV. And he did nothing. He came into the kitchen, saw his dad yelling at me, saw me on the floor, and just said, Emily, get up, clean this mess, and next time cook something decent. The silence that followed was heavy, so heavy I could hardly breathe. That was the first time he hit me, Emily said, but it wasn't the last. From that day on, Richard became more aggressive. He would push me, pull my hair, pinch me. And always with Ethan there, seeing everything and saying nothing. "Why didn't you call me sooner?" Robert asked, his voice breaking. "Because I was ashamed, Dad. Because I thought it was my fault, that if I were a better wife, a better cook, a better woman, none of this would be happening." "Emily, listen to me carefully," Robert said, kneeling in front of her. "None of this is your fault. Nothing. That man is an abuser, and your husband is a coward, and they both deserve to go to jail. But Dad, I love him. I love Ethan. Loving someone who lets you suffer, that's not love, honey. That's fear." Emily covered her face with her hands. "I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get out of this." I went to her. I took her hands in mine. "You're already out, Emily. You're here with us. You're safe. But Ethan will come. He'll make me go back." "Let him come," Robert said. "I'll be here. And he's not taking you anywhere. And if he brings his dad? If he brings his dad, even better. Because I'll arrest him for assault. But Dad, I have no proof. I didn't go to the doctor. I didn't take pictures of the bruises. The proof is on your body, and your testimony is proof too. That's enough." Emily shook her head. "It won't be enough. Richard has money. He has connections. He can hire lawyers. He can say I'm lying, that I'm crazy." "Then we'll make sure he can't," I said. They both looked at me. "How?" Robert asked. "Tomorrow. We're going with Emily to the station. We're going to file a formal report against Richard for assault, against Ethan for complicity." "Mom, I can't." "Yes, you can. And you're going to. Because if you don't do it now, this will continue, and one day that man will go too far and he will kill you." Emily was quiet. She knew I was right. "Okay," she said finally. "I'll do it." Robert nodded. "Good. I'll go with you, and I'll make sure this report is taken seriously." The three of us hugged. It was a long hug, a hug of a broken but united family, a family that fights, that resists. But that night, something else happened. At 11 o'clock, there was a knock at the door. The three of us froze. "It's him," Emily whispered. Robert stood up. He went to the door. "Who is it?" he asked without opening. "It's Ethan. I'm here for my wife. She's not here. I know she's there. Your mom took her. I want to talk to her. There's nothing to talk about. Go away. I'm not leaving without Emily." Ethan's voice sounded desperate, angry. Robert opened the door, just a crack, enough for Ethan to see his uniform. "I told you to leave. If you don't go, I'll arrest you for disturbing the peace. Are you threatening me?" "No, I'm warning you. Emily is here of her own free will, and she's not going with you. She's my wife. She has to come with me. She's a person, not your property." Ethan tried to push the door. Robert held it firm. "Take one more step and I'll cuff you." Ethan froze. He was breathing heavily. His eyes were red, as if he'd been crying or drinking or both. "Emily," he shouted. "Emily, come out! We need to talk." Emily got up from the sofa. I tried to stop her, but she motioned with her hand. She walked to the door. Robert stepped aside. "Ethan," Emily said, her voice firm. "I'm not coming back." "What? Why? What did your mom tell you? Is she putting ideas in your head?" "Nobody put anything in my head. I saw the truth." "What truth?" "That your dad hit me, and you let him. My dad was just teaching you." "No!" Emily yelled. "Your dad was abusing me, and you're an accomplice." Ethan was silent. For the first time, he had no answer. "I loved you, Ethan. I really did. But I can't live like this anymore. I can't keep pretending everything is okay when it's not." "Emily, please, let's talk. Let's fix this. There's nothing to fix. Tomorrow, I'm going to the police station. I'm going to file a report against your dad, and if I have to, against you too." Ethan's face changed from pleading to fury. "You're going to report me? After everything I did for you? What did you do for me, Ethan? Let me suffer? Let your dad humiliate me? That's what you did for me. I gave you a home. I gave you my last name. I gave you. You gave me nothing. You only took from me. You took my dignity, my peace, my happiness. Ethan took a step back, as if Emily's words were physical blows. You're going to regret this, he said in a cold voice. You're both going to regret this. Robert stepped in front of him. Is that a threat? No, it's a promise, because my dad won't stay quiet and neither will I. He turned and left. He got in his car and sped off. Robert closed the door. He looked at me. This isn't over, I know. That man will be back, and he'll probably bring his father. I know. And when they come back, it's going to be ugly. I know, Robert, but I don't care, because this time, I'm not going to let them hurt my daughter. Emily hugged both of us. Thank you. Thank you for not leaving me alone. You'll never be alone, honey, I said. Never. That night, the three of us slept in the living room, Robert on the armchair, Emily and I on the sofa bed. I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the door, waiting for another knock. But no one knocked. And that scared me more, because men like Richard and Ethan don't give up easily. And when they come back with everything. The next day dawned with a gray sky, thick clouds, as if even the weather knew what was coming. Emily woke up early. She had deep, dark circles under her eyes. She hadn't slept well. None of us had. I made coffee, scrambled some eggs with bacon, set the table, trying to make everything seem normal, but nothing was normal. Robert arrived at 8 in the morning. He wasn't in uniform anymore. He was wearing casual clothes, jeans, a white shirt, a dark jacket. Ready? He asked Emily. She nodded, but her hands were shaking. I'll be with you the whole time, I said, taking her hand. You're not alone. I know, Mom, but I'm scared. It's normal to be scared, but fear can't stop you. You've already taken the hardest step. Now you just have to keep going. We left the house, got into Robert's car. I sat in the back with Emily. She held onto my hand as if it were a lifeline. During the drive, no one spoke much, just the sound of the engine, the noise of the city, the horns, life going on its course, oblivious to our pain. We arrived at the police station at 9:30. It was a gray, cold building, full of people waiting, people with tired faces, people who had seen too much, people like us. Robert knew some of the officers. He helped us skip part of the line. He took us to a small office where a woman in her 40s with glasses and her hair in a bun was waiting for us. Good morning. I'm Detective Davis. I understand you're here to file a report for assault. Emily nodded. Yes? All right. I need you to tell me everything in detail and calmly. Okay? Emily took a deep breath and began to speak. She told her everything from the beginning, from Ethan's jealousy when they were dating, from Richard's criticisms, from the first blow, from the thrown soup, from the bruises, from the constant fear. Detective Davis took notes. Her face showed no emotion, but her eyes said she had heard this story 1,000 times, with 1,000 different faces, but always the same story. Do you have any physical evidence? Photos of the bruises, medical reports? Emily shook her head. No, I was afraid Ethan would find out. Are there witnesses? A neighbor, Linda. She heard screaming. Robert intervened. I can get her statement. Perfect. That helps, the detective said. And the primary aggressor is the father-in-law, Richard Miller? Yes. And your husband, Ethan Miller. Has he also physically assaulted you? Emily hesitated. Not directly, but he allowed it. He watched his dad hit me and did nothing. It's as if he were hitting me too. The detective nodded. That's called complicity, and it's also a crime. I'll include them both in the report. What's going to happen now? I asked. We'll issue a summons for Richard Miller. He will have to come in and give a statement. If there's enough evidence, he'll be arrested. As for Ethan, he'll also have to give a statement, and depending on his testimony, he could face charges for failure to render aid. And is Emily protected? We're going to issue a restraining order. Neither Richard nor Ethan can come near Emily. If they do, they will be arrested immediately. Emily started to cry. And if they don't respect the order? That's why your father is here, the detective said, looking at Robert. He can protect you, and so can we. But you have to be strong, Emily. This is just the beginning. Emily signed the report. Her hands were shaking so much she could barely hold the pen. But she did it. She signed. We left the station with a copy of the report, with the restraining order, with a piece of paper that said Emily was protected. But papers don't stop bullets. They don't stop punches. They don't stop men full of rage. And I knew it. We went back to my house. Emily stayed in her room, the old room where she grew up, where she was a child, where she was happy. I made lunch, tried to keep busy, but my hands were shaking. My mind couldn't stop imagining what Richard and Ethan would do when they got the notice. At 3 p.m, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered. Hello? Silence. Hello? I repeated. And then a voice that chilled my blood. Mrs. Collins, it's Richard. I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. What do you want? I want you to give me Emily back. Emily is not mine to give back. She chose to leave, and she chose to report you. That report isn't going anywhere. I have lawyers. I have connections. I can make it disappear. Go ahead. But Emily is not going back to you or your son. You don't understand, ma'am. You are destroying a family. You're putting ideas in Emily's head. You're making my son suffer. Your son is suffering? What about Emily? What about the suffering you caused her? I was only educating her, teaching her to be a good wife, like my wife was. Your wife died sad and alone. I don't want that for my daughter. There was a long, tense silence. You're going to regret this, he finally said. I've been told. But I don't care. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I called Robert. Richard called me. He threatened me. What did he say? That I would regret it, that he has lawyers, that he can make the report disappear. He can't. It's already filed. It's in the system. He can hire whoever he wants, but this isn't going away. But Robert, that man is dangerous. I know. That's why I'm going to stay there with you. I'm not going to let anything happen to you. Thank you. I hung up. Emily came down from her room. Her eyes were red. Who called? I didn't want to lie to her. Richard. Her face turned pale. What did he say? Nothing important, just empty threats. Mom, he doesn't make empty threats. If he said something, he'll do it. That's why your dad is going to be here, and that's why we're not leaving the house until this is resolved. Emily nodded, but I knew she was scared. So scared. That night, Robert arrived with a suitcase. He stayed in the guest room. He put his service weapon on the nightstand, just in case. We had dinner in silence. Vegetable soup, bread, nothing elaborate, just something to fill our stomachs. At 10 o'clock, Emily went to bed. I stayed in the living room with Robert. Do you think Ethan will come? I asked. I don't know, but if he does, he won't be alone. You think he'll bring Richard? It's possible. And what do? We call the police. He can arrest them for violating the restraining order. And if they get here before the police do? Robert looked at me. Then I'll stop them. Robert, I don't want anything to happen to you. Nothing will happen to me. But I won't let anything happen to Emily or you either. I stood up, hugged him. Thanks for everything. You don't have to thank me. She's my daughter, and I will always protect her. I went to bed, but I couldn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to every noise, every car that passed, every dog that barked. And then, at 2 a.m, I heard it. An engine stopped in front of my house. I got up, went to the window, peeked through the curtain. It was Ethan's car. And he wasn't alone. Richard was with him. My heart started beating so fast I thought it would burst out of my chest. They got out of the car. Ethan was holding something in his hand. I couldn't see what it was. Richard walked with heavy steps with determination. I ran to Robert's room. "Robert, they're here." He got up immediately, grabbed his gun, went to the window. "Damn it," he whispered. "What do we do?" "Stay with Emily, I'm going out." "No, Robert, don't go out. Let's call the police. I already called them, but they'll be a while, and I can't let them get near the house." He went out. I ran to Emily's room. She was awake, trembling. "What's happening, Mom?" "They're here. Ethan and Richard." No. She started to cry. "What do they want?" "I don't know. But your dad is outside. He won't let them in." We hugged each other. We heard voices outside, shouting, "Emily, come out. We need to talk." It was Ethan's voice. "I'm not coming out," Emily yelled from the window. "Go away. I'm not leaving without you." "She's not coming out," Robert yelled. "And if you don't leave, I'll arrest you." "You have no authority here," Richard shouted. "This is a family matter." It stopped being a family matter when you put your hands on her. There was a struggle, shouts, and then a sound I will never forget. A gunshot. Emily screamed. I screamed. We ran to the window. Robert was on the ground, bleeding. I still wonder if I did the right thing. What would you have done in my place? Everything happened in slow motion. I saw Robert on the ground. I saw the blood. I saw Ethan with a gun in his hand, shaking, his eyes wide, as if he couldn't believe what he had just done. I saw Richard, still, his face hard, showing nothing, as if this was what he expected, as if this was part of the plan. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. My body moved on its own. I ran out of the house, ran towards Robert. Emily screamed behind me, but I didn't stop. I knelt beside him. He was conscious, breathing with difficulty. Blood was pouring from his left shoulder. Robert, look at me. I'm okay, he whispered. It's just my shoulder." I took off my robe, pressed it against the wound. He winced in pain. Hold on. The ambulance is coming." I looked up. Ethan was still there, standing, the gun dangling from his hand, paralyzed, in shock. Richard took a step towards us. "It was self-defense," he said in a cold voice. "He threatened us." He drew his weapon. My son was just defending himself. "Liar!" I screamed. "You came here. You violated the restraining order. You attacked him." "There are no witnesses," Richard said. "It's our word against yours." "I'm a witness," Emily yelled from the doorway of the house. "I saw everything." Richard looked at her with contempt. "No one is going to believe a hysterical woman who reported her own family. They'll think you're lying. Like always." Emily started walking towards us. She was trembling, crying, but she was walking. "I'm not lying, and I'm going to tell the truth, even if it costs me everything." Ethan looked at her. For the first time since he got out of the car, he spoke. "Emily, I didn't want to. He was going to. He was going to what, Ethan?" Emily said, her voice broken but firm. "Protect me. That's what he was going to do. Protect me from your father. Protect me from you." "Emily, please understand. I didn't know it was going to happen like this. You knew. You always knew. You knew when your father yelled at me for the first time. You knew when he pushed me. You knew when he hit me. And you did nothing. You never did anything." Ethan dropped the gun to the ground. He covered his face with his hands and began to sob. "I just wanted you to be like my mom. She never complained. She always obeyed. Your mom died sad, Ethan. She died alone. She died without love. Is that what you wanted for me? He didn't answer, just cried. Richard looked at him with disgust. You're a coward, he said to his son. Just like your mother. And in that moment, something in Ethan's face changed. Something broke. He looked up at his father, and for the first time in his life, he talked back. No, you're the coward. You who hit my mom for years. You who made her feel worthless. You who killed her little by little. And I let you do the same thing to Emily because I learned from you, because I thought that's how you treat a wife. Richard slapped him. Shut up. Ethan didn't move, just looked at him with tears in his eyes. No, I'm not going to be quiet anymore. I'm not going to obey you anymore. I'm not going to be like you. The sirens started to wail in the distance. Richard looked down the street. His face changed. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. We're leaving, he told Ethan. No, Ethan said. I'm staying. What? I'm staying. I'm going to face what I did. I'm going to tell the truth. If you tell the truth, you'll go to jail. I know. And I deserve it. Richard grabbed his arm. Don't be stupid. We can still fix this. Ethan pulled away. There's nothing to fix. Not anymore. The squad cars arrived. 3 cars, 6 officers got out with their guns drawn. On the ground. Everyone on the ground. Richard raised his hands. Ethan knelt. The police cuffed them. The ambulance arrived 2 minutes later. The paramedics checked Robert. They said the bullet went through his shoulder, that he had lost blood, but he would be okay. They loaded him into the ambulance. I wanted to go with him, but Emily grabbed my hand. Mom, stay with me, please. I stayed. The police took our statements. Mine, Emily's, the neighbors who had come out when they heard the shot. Richard said nothing, just stared at the ground with his jaw clenched. Ethan, however, talked. He told them everything. That his father had abused Emily, that he had allowed it, that they had come that night to take her by force, that Robert had tried to stop them, that his father had given him the gun, that in a moment of fear and rage, he had fired. I didn't want to kill him, he said, crying. I just wanted him to leave us alone. But my father said if I didn't shoot, he would, and He couldn't finish. He broke down. The police took Richard and Ethan away. 2 different squad cars, 2 different destinies. Richard would be charged with domestic violence, making threats, and violating a restraining order. Ethan would be charged with attempted murder, complicity, and violating a restraining order. They would both spend years in prison. Emily and I were left alone on the street. It was 3 a.m. The neighborhood was awake, everyone watching, everyone whispering, but I didn't care. I hugged my daughter. I hugged her so tight I thought she would break. It's over, honey. It's over. And Dad is going to be okay, I promise. We went into the house. I closed the door, closed the curtains. We sat on the living room sofa. Emily couldn't stop shaking. Mom, Ethan shot Dad. I know. It's my fault. No, Emily, it wasn't your fault. None of this was your fault. It was Richard's fault. It was Ethan's fault. It was the fault of men who learned that violence is power. But I loved him. I know, honey. But love isn't enough. Love without respect, without dignity, without peace. That's not love. It's destruction. Emily cried on my chest. She cried like I had never seen her cry before. She cried out everything she had held inside. All the fear, all the pain, all the shame. And I let her. Because sometimes, crying is the only way to start to heal. The days that followed were difficult. Robert was in the hospital for a week. The bullet had damaged nerves. He needed surgery, physical therapy, but he survived. When I was able to visit him, I found him sitting up in bed with his arm in a sling, watching TV. Hey, I said. Hey. he replied with a tired smile. I sat beside him. Thanks for protecting us. You don't have to thank me. It was my duty. It was more than a duty. It was a father's love. He nodded, his eyes welling up with tears. How's Emily? Better, little by little. She's going to therapy. She's rebuilding her life. And Ethan? In pre-trial detention, awaiting his trial. His lawyer says he's going to plead guilty, that he'll accept his sentence. And Richard? Also in jail, but he's still denying everything. Says he's innocent, that Emily is lying, that I manipulated her. Robert sighed. Men like him never take responsibility. Never. I know. But it doesn't matter anymore. Because Emily is free, and that's all that matters. Robert took my hand. You did the right thing, Sarah. You saved our daughter. No. We saved her together. We sat in silence. A comfortable silence. The silence of two people who, though no longer a couple, were still a team. 6 months passed. Richard was sentenced to 8 years in prison for aggravated domestic violence and making threats. Ethan was sentenced to 5 years for attempted murder, with the possibility of a reduced sentence for cooperating with the prosecution. Emily divorced him. The process was quick. Ethan didn't contest it. He signed everything without a fight. And slowly, my daughter started to smile again. She started coming to my house on Sundays again. She started drinking coffee with cinnamon with me again. She started telling me her plans again. I want to open that little school, Mom. The one I always dreamed of. Then open it. You think I can? I know you can. Because you're strong. Stronger than you think. She smiled. And that smile was real. It was free. One day, while we were sitting at the kitchen table, Emily told me something I'll never forget. Mom, thank you for not giving up on me. I was never going to give up, honey. You're my daughter, and a mother never gives up on her daughter. But a lot of mothers do. A lot of women are going through what I went through, and nobody helps them. Nobody listens. That's why you have to tell your story, Emily, so other women know they're not alone, that they can get out, that they can heal. You think so. I know so. And that's what she did. Emily started giving talks at community centers to women who had suffered violence, to women who were afraid to leave, to women who thought there was no hope. And she told them the truth, that leaving is hard, that it hurts, that it's scary, but that it's worth it. Because life after abuse is possible, peace is possible, happiness is possible. And I, her mother, was there at every talk, for every tear, for every smile, because that's what mothers do. We show up, we protect, we fight, even if it costs us everything. 2 years have passed since that night. 2 years in which life taught us that justice doesn't always come quickly, but it always comes. Richard served his sentence at the state penitentiary. According to a lawyer friend of Robert's, the man who was once in the military, who once instilled fear with his mere presence, had become someone else. In prison, no one was afraid of him. No one respected him. The inmates knew why he was there. Violence against women. And in prison, that's a mark that follows you, that isolates you. Richard was no longer the tough man who shouted and hit. He was an old, stooped man who ate alone, who walked with his head down, who no one wanted to be around. One day, I received a call. It was from the prison hospital. Richard had suffered a heart attack. It wasn't severe, but it wasn't mild either. His heart was weak, very weak. The doctor told me that Richard had asked to speak with someone from his family, with his son, with his daughter-in-law. But Ethan refused. He said he had nothing to say to him, that his father had died for him the day he forced him to shoot at Robert. And Emily refused too, not with anger, not with hatred. She simply said, I've already forgiven him, but that doesn't mean I have to see him. So Richard was left alone in that hospital bed, with no family, no visitors, No one to hold his hand as his heart failed. He once called me crazy. He once told me I was destroying his family. Years later, I learned he was alone in that hospital. Life always collects its debts. I didn't feel joy when I found out, but I didn't feel pity either. I just felt a sense of balance. Because Richard spent his last years exactly how he made so many women feel: alone, scared, powerless. Ethan got out of prison after 3 years. His sentence was reduced for good behavior and for cooperating with the justice system. When he got out, he had nowhere to go. His house had been sold to pay for lawyers. His father was still in prison. And Emily had already moved on. He tried to call her once, twice, 10 times. She never answered. Until one day, Emily decided to see him. Not because she wanted to get back with him, not because she missed him, but because she needed to close that chapter of her life. They met at a coffee shop, a public, neutral place. I wanted to go with her, but Emily told me, "No, Mom, I have to do this alone." I waited for her outside, sitting on a bench, watching people pass by, praying silently. Half an hour later, Emily came out. Her eyes were red, but she wasn't crying. "Are you okay?" I asked. "Yes, I'm okay. What happened?" He apologized. He told me he'd been in therapy, that he understood all the harm he had done to me, that if he could turn back time, he would do everything differently. "And what did you say?" I told him I forgave him, but that forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or going back or giving him another chance. How did he react? He cried. He told me he understood, that he didn't expect anything from me, that he just wanted me to know that he was changing, that he was trying to be better. "And did you believe him?" Emily thought for a moment. "I don't know, Mom. Maybe he is changing, or maybe he just learned to say the right words. But it's not my responsibility to find out anymore. It's not my problem." I hugged her. "I'm so proud of you, honey." "Thanks, Mom, for everything." That was the last time Emily saw Ethan. Months later, I heard from a friend that Ethan had moved to another city, that he was working in construction, living alone, not dating, and not talking to anyone about his past. Some might say that's sad, that a man deserves a second chance. And maybe he does, but not with the woman he hurt, not with the family he destroyed. Ethan lost Emily forever, and that was his greatest punishment, greater than prison, greater than his father's rejection. He lost the love of a good woman, and he will never get that back. Robert recovered completely, well, almost completely. His left arm never regained its full strength. He had to leave his job as a field officer and was moved to a desk job. At first, he was frustrated. He said he missed the streets, the action, feeling useful. But over time, he found another way to be useful. He started giving talks in schools to young people about domestic violence, about how to recognize the signs of abuse, about how to protect the women in their families. And the kids listened to him because Robert didn't speak like a cop. He spoke like a father, like a man who had seen pain up close, who had bled to protect his daughter. One day, after one of his talks, a boy of about 17 approached him. "Mr. Collins, my dad hits my mom, and I don't know what to do." Robert knelt in front of him, looked him in the eyes. "Yes, you do know what to do. You have to protect her. You have to tell her she's not alone, and you have to get help." "But how? My dad is strong. I can't." "You don't have to fight him. You just have to break the silence. Talk to a teacher, an uncle, the police. Silence is what kills. A voice is what saves." The boy cried, and Robert hugged him. That night, Robert told me what had happened, and as he spoke, I saw tears in his eyes. "Sarah, if I had talked to Emily sooner, if I had asked more questions, if I had insisted—" "Don't blame yourself, Robert. You did everything you could, and when Emily needed you, you were there. That's what matters." He nodded. But there are so many Emilys out there, so many women suffering, and no one does anything. That's why you speak. That's why Emily speaks. So those women know there's a way out. Robert smiled. You're right. As for me, my life changed too. After everything that happened, I couldn't go on with my routine as if nothing had happened. I couldn't keep going to work, checking numbers, living as if I hadn't seen what I saw. I quit my job at the paper company. After 30 years. My coworkers didn't understand, my boss didn't either, but I understood. I understood that life is short, that time is precious, and that there are more important things than a salary. I used my savings to open something I had always dreamed of, a shelter for women who are victims of violence. It wasn't big, just a small house on the outskirts of the city with 3 rooms, a kitchen, a living room. But it was a safe place, a place where women like Emily could arrive, without money, without papers, without questions, just with their pain and their hope. Emily helped me. Robert, too. We got donations, volunteers, lawyers who worked pro bono, psychologists who gave free therapy, and little by little, that small place filled with life, with women who arrived broken and left whole, with children who arrived scared and left playing, with stories that arrived in silence and left in a loud voice. One day, a woman in her 40s arrived at the shelter. She had 2 small children. She had a black eye, a split lip. "Can I stay?" she asked in a trembling voice. "Of course, this is your home now," she cried. She hugged her children. "Thank you. Thank you for not closing the door on me." We never closed the door here. Never. That night, as I was making dinner for all the women in the shelter, I thought about Richard, about Ethan, about all the men who use their strength to destroy. And I thought about justice, not the justice of the courts, not the justice of laws, but the justice of karma, the justice of life. Richard ended up alone. Ethan ended up empty. And we ended up together, strong, rebuilt. That is the greatest justice, the one no one can take from you. Today, as I write these words, 5 years have passed since that night. 5 years since the shot, since the screams, since the fear. 5 years in which I learned that pain can be transformed into wisdom, that wounds can become scars that tell stories, and that a mother's love is the most powerful force in the universe. Emily is now 31. She opened her little school. It's called Seeds of Hope. It's small, but beautiful, full of colors, laughter, and children running and playing. She is happy, whole, free. She met someone, a good man, a teacher like her, someone who treats her with respect, with tenderness, with true love. The first time she introduced him to me, I was nervous. I was afraid of making the same mistake again, of trusting someone who didn't deserve it. But when I saw him with Emily, when I saw how he looked at her, how he listened to her, how he made her laugh, I knew this time was different. "Mom, I want you to meet Andrew." Andrew shook my hand, looked me in the eyes. "It's an honor to meet you, Mrs. Collins. Emily has told me so much about you, about everything you did for her. I only did what any mother would do." "No, not any mother. You saved her. And for that, I will always respect you, and I will always take care of Emily the way you did." My eyes filled with tears. "I only ask one thing of you, Andrew. Love her. Don't control her. Truly love her. I promise." And he has kept his promise. Last year, Emily and Andrew got married. It was a small, intimate wedding in a garden full of white flowers. Robert walked her down the aisle. I cried. I cried with happiness, with relief, with gratitude. Because this time my daughter chose well. This time my daughter found the love she deserved. Robert still gives talks, still saves lives with his words. He remarried too, to a good, calm woman who loves and cares for him. He and I are still friends, still a team, because even though our marriage didn't work, Our family did. And that's what matters. The shelter grew. It's not just a small house anymore. Now we have 2 houses, 12 rooms, capacity for 20 women and their children. Every month, new stories arrive, new tears, new hopes. And every month, I see women who arrive broken and leave whole. Women who arrive with fear and leave with courage. A few days ago, a woman in her 60s came to the shelter. She was carrying an old suitcase. Her eyes were swollen, her hands trembling. "Can I stay?" she asked. "Of course. Come in." She entered, sat in the living room, and started talking. "I was married for 40 years. 40 years of putting up with it. 40 years of being silent. I thought it was too late, that at my age there was no point in leaving. But today, my granddaughter told me something that changed my life. She said, 'And Grandma, it's never too late to be happy.'" She cried, and I cried with her. "Your granddaughter is right," I told her. "It's never too late. As long as we have breath, we can start over." She smiled, a tired but real smile. "Thank you. Thank you for opening this door for me. This door is always open for you, for everyone." Sometimes when I'm alone, I think about everything that happened. About Richard, about Ethan, about that night of blood and screams. And I wonder if I did the right thing, if I could have done things differently, if I could have spared Emily so much pain. But then I see her. I see my daughter smiling. I see my daughter free. I see my daughter alive. And I understand that yes, I did the right thing. Because a mother can't prevent her children from suffering, but she can be there when they suffer. She can hold them, she can fight for them, she can remind them that they're not alone. And that's what I did. That's what I will always do. There's something I've learned over these years, something I want to share with all the women listening to this story. If you are in a relationship where you are yelled at, where you are controlled, where you are made to feel small, leave. Please, leave. Don't wait until it's too late. Don't wait for the blows to get stronger. Don't wait for your light to be completely extinguished. Because you are worth more, so much more. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how long you've been there. It doesn't matter how many times they've told you that you can't. Yes, you can. And you are not alone. There are women like me, like Emily, like all those who have passed through the shelter. Women who will believe you, who will support you, who will walk with you. You just have to take the first step, the hardest one, the most important one, the step towards the door. A few months ago, I received a letter. It had no return address, just my name handwritten on the envelope. I opened it. It was from Ethan. It said, "Mrs. Collins, I know I have no right to ask you for anything. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, or Emily's, or anyone's. But I want you to know that every day I think about what I did. Every day I carry that weight, and every day I try to be better. Not to get Emily back, I understand that. I lost her forever, and that's fair. But so that if I ever have children, I don't repeat my father's mistakes, so that the cycle ends with me. Thank you for saving Emily. Thank you for doing what I didn't have the courage to do. With respect, Ethan." I read the letter several times. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel forgiveness. I just felt nothing. Because Ethan is no longer a part of our lives, it no longer matters what he feels, what he thinks, what he does. The only thing that matters is that Emily is okay, that she's alive, that she's happy. I put the letter in a drawer and never read it again. Today, as the sun sets behind the mountains, I sit on my back porch. I have a mug of coffee with cinnamon in my hands, the same kind of mug Emily used when she was a girl. I think about the whole journey, everything we lost, everything we gained. And I understand that life isn't perfect, that it doesn't always have happy endings, that sometimes justice is slow. Sometimes the pain lasts for years. Sometimes the scars never fade. But I also understand that life goes on, that love goes on, that hope goes on. And as long as there are women willing to fight, to break the silence, to open doors, there will be a future. There will be freedom. There will be peace. If my story helps just one woman open her eyes, it will have been worth it. If my story helps just one mother to act, it will have been worth it. If my story helps just one person understand that true love doesn't hurt, it will have been worth it. Because stories aren't just told to remember the past, they're told to change the future. And this is my gift to you, to all of you, to all the women who need to hear that yes, you can, that yes, there is a way out, that yes, there is life after the pain. Thank you for listening to the end. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing me. And if you are going through something similar, if you know someone who is suffering, please act. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Don't be afraid. Because silence kills, but a voice saves. And together, we can save many more. God bless you. And until next time, thank you for listening to the end. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and hit the notification bell to hear more stories of women who transformed their pain into wisdom. Every day, a woman, a life lesson. Share this story with someone you love. Sometimes, a story like this can change an entire day. God bless you, and until next time. M.